Heartbreak at Giants camp. Wide receiver Calvin Austin III officially out for the season after tearing his ACL in practice. And now, Big Blue has to figure out how to move on without a key playmaker. So, I'm going to stay very consistent here. I love the Calvin Austin signing. I thought it was brilliant, logical. John Harbaugh coached against Calvin Austin in those battles with Pittsburgh and Baltimore for all these years. And he, in his first free agent class as the head coach of the Giants, said, I want Calvin Austin on my football team. And I loved it. Loved the move. I love Calvin Austin. Phenomenal guy. Makes big plays, great hands. He's incredibly speedy, yards after the catch. This feels like the kind of injury, and it sucks. I feel terrible for Calvin Austin. Phenomenal guy. Really good player who I thought in Matt Nagy's offense was going to be great. This is the kind of move that I'm worried keeps the Giants out of the playoffs. Like when you start talking about the difference between, this is the conversation, the Giants and the Cowboys and the Eagles, the Giants versus the Bears and the Lions and the Packers, going up in a compare and contrast with the Minnesota Vikings and the 49ers and the Rams. And you start talking about how they compare to the Seattle Seahawks. When you lose a guy, and we can debate how great Calvin Austin is, who the Giants and John Harbaugh were banking on to be the number 2 or number 3 receiver this year, it's awful. It sets them back. That doesn't mean they, at the end of the day, can't make the playoffs without him. But when I start looking into the crystal ball in terms of guys who can help the Giants win games and win close games and be a spark on offense, it sucks. Because now, Odell Beckham Jr. is going to make the team. Let's be clear. For all the conversation that I've had on how do you sign Odell, and he's dropping passes, and, you know, this is nothing more than a play to the sentiment of Giants fans. He's going to make the team. Malik Neighbors, he's on track to play week 1. He better play week 1. Because let's say, hypothetically, look at the depth chart on the screen right there. Let's say Neighbors isn't there. Are you beating the Cowboys with Mooney and Fields and Slayton and Odell Beckham Jr.? And listen, I love this. One-handed grab. Everyone on social media is going nuts. That's fantastic. Also, when he used 2 hands to make a potential touchdown catch in the preseason game against Miami, the ball went right through it. So you can have your flash and your dash when it comes to Odell. And I want it crystal clear. I'm rooting for Odell Beckham Jr. I think this would be an amazing story. Great for the Giants. Great for their fans. Odell Beckham Jr., when the Giants brought him in June, was a street free agent. Went through the free agency period. No one in the NFL signed him. So forget even my take, which is right and ahead of the curve. The entire league was convinced he couldn't play. So if you're banking on Odell Beckham Jr. to replace what you thought the productivity of Calvin Austin was going to be, I just think you're not paying attention. And the Giants' schedule without Calvin Austin, listen, let's have this conversation. I don't like them against the Cowboys. The Rams are loaded. And then you have winnable games. And I said 4-2 to start the season. Tennessee should absolutely be a win. Arizona should absolutely be a win. Not having Calvin Austin for the game against Washington makes me nervous. Not having Calvin Austin in a game against the New Orleans Saints, who I think are going to be a really good team, that makes me nervous. Not to mention the stretch of, look at that, and let's take the bye week out. Houston, Philadelphia, Washington, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, San Francisco, Seattle. That is a tough stretch. And then after the Cleveland game, how the Giants finish at Detroit, at Dallas, and then home against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think if you have a singular focus on the name Calvin Austin, it's just not right. You need to have a bigger picture, and I love Malachi Fields. I love Mooney. I love Isaiah Likely, who they brought in at the tight end position to catch passes from Jackson Dart. But Calvin Austin was John Harbaugh's hand-picked speed receiver because he coached against him in all those Pittsburgh and Baltimore battles. This is brutal. I don't even think, because the Giants fans never saw Calvin Austin play. So you have no idea what kind of impact he was going to have on your football team. I think this is a killer for the New York Football Giants. I think this is one of those unfortunate injuries that will ultimately hurt the Giants in terms of their ability and keep them out of the playoffs in 2026.